I'm just imagining how infuriating it would be for anyone listening that it's bad enough as a viewer that you watch an episode and you don't get a conclusion, but they listen to a podcast about that episode and you still don't get a conclusion. Yeah. Come back next week and find out what we thought.
Yeah.
Why would I?
Unsubscribe.
Yeah. I'll just go to your number 2 one straight away.
Get Into Geek. This is episode 34. We are talking Stargate SG-1. Full team back. My name is Mitch. As always, joining me, Matty Gibson, Brennan Gibson,
hello,
and Rhys Gibson as well.
Here I am.
All the Gibsons in the house.
It's very official with all our last names now.
Isn't it? Yeah. And I feel like, you know, as I keep saying Gibson, it's like I'm trying to make a point about something. Like it's the setup to a story or reveal, and it's not. Yeah. And I don't know why I keep saying it. Like,
on the record, I'm not related to those two Muppets.
Yeah.
You're
not.
Shit, they're here. Sorry. Hi, guys.
That's all right. We know we're Muppets. Shotgun Kermit.
I guess I miss Piggy then.
No.
Why?
You're clearly that big blue eagle guy. You know, you're the big... No, forget it. Don't worry. I have no idea what's going on.
Me
Mitch,
neither.
isn't it your job to rein us in?
Yeah, no, I'm getting there.
He loves it. He loves it.
I'm finding a clear edit point.
Wait till it dies down, then start again.
Yeah, exactly. Now, we are talking Tokra. Now, of course, Tokra is told in 2 parts. Tokra Part 1 and Tokra Part 2. Now, Matty, we wanted to do this, obviously, as one episode, because it's one story. We're not going to make anyone listening carry over and listen to us for 2 weeks to try and find out our thoughts. But depending on how you're watching these episodes, we might have brought them forward. Because I know for me, I'm watching it on the DVDs. And another episode called Spirits is actually before Tokra Part 1. So I was very confused when you said Tokra was up next week. Now, you guys, I know, Rhys, you're watching it on Stan. Tokra's next for you. But Brendan, you actually looked into this, why they might have done it. Matty, you had your own theories, why they're screwing with the fans of the DVD?
It only happens in the DVD sequence in Australia and Region 2, so everyone else won't know what we're talking about unless Matty's theory is correct. But they have Spirits prior to Tokra Part 1 and 2. However, yeah, we're going to go by the way it was aired.
Yeah.
Yeah, so like on Season 2, Disc 3, they have Episode 9, Secrets, Episode 10, Bane. Then they actually say Episode 13, Spirits, and then Episode 11, Tokra. So my theory is just simply that back in that time, you couldn't even buy them as box sets. You were buying them as individual sort of DVDs, like Amaray cases that had the disc inside. So my theory is they just wanted to split up a 2-part episode over 2 different discs, so it kind of forced you to buy the next one.
Yeah. If
you kind of wanted to know the ending.
But it's like as if you wouldn't be buying that one, but
yeah, it's like,
you know what I mean? That's just annoying.
You're either collecting the whole series because you love it, or
I'm going to try and get into this show. I'm going to buy Season 2, Disc 3.
Yeah.
And see if I like it.
Yeah.
Or you're at Blockbuster and the second disc is out. Someone's rented it and you've just got the first one and go, oh, damn, what do I do now?
Yeah.
Or worse, the second disc, you watch Part 2 first and you're like, well, this makes no sense.
I guess the story just finished. They just lived on that sand planet with the Tokra for the rest of their lives.
Yeah.
I'm just imagining the very late stage Gen Yers that might be getting into the show like you are, Rhys, and listening to us talk about having to drive somewhere away from home, find not only a season of a show, but one disc containing 4 random episodes of said random season of a show that you would have to hire and then skip through and then return at a later date. It's like, where's my streaming, bro?
Yeah.
And not to mention that if they did in fact have SG-1 Season 2 Disc 2, you are lucky.
Yes.
Yeah.
I hope I beat the other nerd down there to hire this out.
That's it.
You couldn't just go to the website and pre-order it and have it like free shipping to your house or anything like that.
I did notice that when you're watching a series on Blockbuster and there's someone always ahead of you who has the next DVD out, and you're like, damn you.
Nemesis.
He becomes your nemesis.
And he brings it back a day late.
Yeah.
And didn't rewind it.
Yeah.
Come on, Graham.
I'll count this as my one, but back in the day when I got into Star Trek, I was watching them on VHS, and I was like borrowing them from the DVD shop. And it's like when you get to one and before you hadn't rewound it.
Yeah.
And you had to sit there for 2 minutes waiting for the VHS to rewind before you could watch your 2 episodes of television that you got on your VHS.
So we are talking Tok'ra, and we are speaking about the DVD cases, and we're going to go back to the synopsis that was provided on said DVD cases. Now, how do you want me to read this? If we're going to talk about 2 episodes, do I read it all as one? Do I read the first half? And we
read
talk
the
about
first one, we'll laugh at it, and then read the second one.
Oh, of course you're going to laugh at it.
Because it's going to contradict it.
Yeah, absolutely. You're right. Okay, Tok'ra Part 1. Captain Carter unwillingly becomes the host to a dying Tok'ra, a member of the Resistance, where noble goal is to overthrow the evil Goa'uld Empire. Now she sees through the Tok'ra's eyes, but can her visions help the SG-1 team save the Tok'ra? That is not what this episode is about.
Yeah,
that was
episode 2?
was Enemy Within, or whatever it was
she
called.
became, she bonded with a Tok'ra
Enemy Within 2.
10 episodes ago.
In the Line of Duty.
Yeah.
I feel like that's the synopsis for In the Line of Duty.
Yeah, it totally is.
Yeah. So if you're reading this and you haven't seen these episodes before, if Rhys had this, he'd be like, oh, Jesus, they're really going back
She
to
gets
the well.
another Tok'ra?
Yeah.
Oh, God. Don't
Gonna
forget
be
about them as
banging
well.
on about that.
Jonah's twin brother, Bolinar. Okay.
And their asshole dad. It's like Lord of the Rings.
I went to school with a girl whose name was Anjani and her little sister's name was Sanjani.
I mean, no
Well,
offense to
they
any
weren't twins.
Anjanies out there,
They
but
weren't
I'm-
twins?
No, it was older sister and younger sister. They're about.
that's just
We were in
cruel.
grade 12 and her younger sister was in about grade 5 or 6.
Father made you wrong.
And
Hi, if you're listening.
the younger sister's nickname was Dolly. They'd call her Dolly because she was like a doll of her older sister.
Oh my god.
Creepy.
And it's Tok'ra Part
day.
2. The Tok'ra are desperate for hosts to house their spirits so they can... Who is writing this?
Jesus.
They're
Oh
not
my God,
spirits.
they don't
God
even
damn
know
it.
it.
I can't even get through this.
Don't even know us.
The Tok'ra are desperate for hosts to house their spirits so they can continue fighting the Goa'uld. Carter's father, who is dying of cancer, has nothing to lose by volunteering his body. But will he die during the transference, or does fate has something else in store?
I guess the latter of the two.
Wow.
They are terrible.
Those, honestly,
That's probably
we've been
the
reading
most
this
inaccurate
that we've read
so far,
in
yeah.
32 episodes.
Apart from
34.
the ones with Walter saving the day, but they're better.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think,
Poor
even
Walter.
I think Walter could save those. Like,
Well, what do you think, Rhys? Because it's always good. I think it's better we ask you first before we change your mind, potentially. Taint it.
Yeah, I didn't love it. I mean, it was a good eye opener to Joel and R's friends, but
I mean, this is what we've been waiting for the entire season, is just more Jolinar, right?
oh yeah, I can't get enough of her. Love her, but yeah, it was a good eye opener to sort of get their take on things. But then they sort of turn into the bad guys, where they're like, "Well, give us one of your bodies, or we're not going to let you go." And
Yeah.
I don't know, it sort of rubbed me up the wrong way. They're supposed to be the good guys that are going to team up with them, but I think it was.
Yeah, it's strange, isn't it? Because their whole philosophy is being against the Goa'uld and how they force enslavement on their hosts. You know, they don't wait for permission, they don't ask for volunteers or anything like that. Yet when the humans who they've just met and have just really been informed of what the hell the Tok'ra are and what they stand for, they're like, you're disgusted by what we're asking you to do. It's like, well, hang on, settle down, guys. You are from the same race. You don't like being called Goa'uld, but you are, for all intents and purposes, a Goa'uld. That is your species. For the last year or 2 years in story time, we have been fighting you and what you are out to achieve. Give us 12 minutes to actually get over the fact that you're different and that you're nice.
Yeah. I almost
Yeah,
feel like
that's right.
that's why this was a two-parter. I feel like this could have been told as a single episode, but I think they really were trying to just drag it out a little bit just to help us as the audience wrap our minds around the fact that there are Goa'uld out there who are potentially an ally. Like, it's kind of still very shady in terms of, oh, do we trust them? Do we not trust them? And it turns out one of them, of the Tok'ra, is actually working for the Goa'uld. And so, it's this real sort of up in the air and kind of thing.
Yeah, because I think that's what pissed me off, because they're like, nah, we're the Tok'ra, we're not the Goa'uld, we don't force you to be one of us, but if you don't be one of us, we'll never let you go.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, it's just like
Well, they
very...
were all just in 6 to 12 months' time.
Yeah, but I mean, like, I don't know if that was part of the storyline to sort of set up, oh, do we trust each other or do we not trust each other? Because they're saying, well, you know, to SG-1, well, we don't know you, so are you good guys? We don't know that yet, so we're not going to let you go. But then in order for us to trust you, one of you have got to become one of us. It's just like...
It's a real running theme so far, isn't it? Every superior race that they've come across, whether it be the Toll, not so much the Nox, because the Nox aren't really asking for anything. They're just sort of saying, well, you guys aren't ready for us to help you. But, the likes of the Toll and now the Tok'ra who have went, well, we can help you, but what are you going to give to us? Why do you deserve our help? Well, you haven't shown that you can provide us with anything. So, yeah, it is a little bit strange. And I guess from what we were talking about a couple of weeks ago, with secrets, I know you weren't particularly fond of Jacob Carter, Rhys. You thought he was a bit of a
he's a
dick.
bit of a dick.
So it was very much like a payoff of that. It was almost he didn't really earn what happened at the end because he started off as a dick. It was almost like to explain why, because he went through such a shit period in episode 1 of the Tok'ra. He's dying. The cancer has it's progressed so much faster than anyone anticipated. All of a sudden Carter realizes there's a different side to her dad that she never knew. She's got so much more of a life that she would love to be able to tell him about. All of a sudden there's a cure. He seems to be the right guy for the job. So I guess it needed that 2-part story because you needed the human side payoff. But you're right, the alien side, the purely the getting of the allies could have probably been wrapped up in one episode. But I did actually really like. I liked it a lot more, I guess, than you, Rhys, watching it for the first time. But maybe that's just being a part of the people that have already watched it in this room, Maddie and Brendan, that we know. No,
for me, I always love these episodes, and going back and rewatching, I find that this episode is kind of the Kickstarter in the main story arc, apart from obviously Apophis and Sharae, but it kicks on beyond that as well, and just seeing the birth of that, and then obviously Carter getting over the whole Jolinar thing, or at least pushing through for us to get some closure and stop talking about it.
Well, until next season, anyway.
Yeah, but I don't know. There's something about this that was just intrigued me and always has, especially with the caves and the way they extend it and the technology they've got. And the fact that they're the Tok'ra that we've been talking about, and we finally
Except
found
it's a bit
them.
disappointing the first time you see them. They got chamois on their heads and they're wearing skirts in the sand.
Buried themselves in the sand, just waiting for someone to come along.
Buried yourself in the sand wearing a skirt. I mean, there's sand getting in places that even the symbiote can't heal.
That's the thing. I always want. Do they have brooms with them when they bury themselves? Like they've got to get away the footprints, and then bury themselves and their rake.
Yeah, there's a guy from the local golf course that comes along, just bunkers the whole situation up.
You still there, Bruce? Yeah, mate.
Yeah. Bring us some water, could you, mate?
There was a weird opening to it too. Like we have at the very, very start, we kind of have the Tok'ra, like the vision of the Tok'ra evacuating a base, like seen through Jolinar's eyes, and then she sees a reflection and it's Sam.
Yeah.
And then Sam wakes up and she's like in the sick bay. She's in medical and she's got monitors on her and all that sort of stuff. She wakes up in a cold sweat. So it's almost like they're actively trying to get information out of her brain about the Tok'ra. But then we do our opening credits, and then the next scene they're in the briefing room, and she's trying to convince them that what she was experiencing wasn't a dream and that we should go and investigate. And it's like, well, clearly it wasn't a dream. She had little monitors on her, so it's like, where's Doc Fraser coming in to say, no, she wasn't in a dream, blah, blah, blah. And it's like they're actively seeking information, but then when they get the information, they're going, nah, it's probably just a dream. So I found that really a really odd kind of start.
And that's where she
episode.
gets the Stargate address, right?
Yeah.
So if you don't believe me, dial it, send them out.
Yeah.
If that's an actual address that's not in the cartouche, then clearly it's real.
Yeah. Yeah, it was just a very weird opening for me to wrap my brain around. It's like going, I don't know if they completely thought that through in terms of just the internal logic of it. But it obviously does set up a really big, like, Tok'ra become a pretty prominent sort of storyline through the next, quite a few seasons.
Yeah, I thought it was very interesting how you were saying, Brendan, with the whole underground cave thing and how the Goa'uld can't find them because they're underground and they create these tunnels and then destroy them when they leave and that sort of thing. So it was good to sort of get the background of it and how they have survived as a resistance and that sort of thing. But I just think
technologically they're on exactly the same footing as the Goa'uld. Like they can manipulate the technology the same way the Goa'uld can. They have access to it all.
Yeah. But it never gave us, like, what's if they have a plan or, like, what are they trying to do? They're just running from planet to planet.
Well, they're just kind of, like, more so, like, spies and trying to get them from within.
And just
the resistance to the rebels to the Empire sort of thing. But you get from this episode, they are actually just a very small group. It's not like the Goa'uld as a species is split down the middle and half a Tok'ra, half a Goa'uld.
Yeah, true.
Just the Goa'uld are out there and just killing them all. Like, you get the feeling this is
There's
like
40
a
of them.
pocket, of just 40 blokes and women that are just trying to recruit people but being dicks about it at the same
And
time
kind of
because they're in a
more
losing fight.
Just trying to survive more than anything else.
Yeah.
Just trying to not be eradicated by the Goa'uld.
And it was really cool, I guess, for Teal'c to take that, not first step, but not that was his intent, I'm sure, but to me as the viewer, that's sort of what he did when he went up to, I forget which of the Tok'ra, and he said, "It's an honor to meet you, and I commend your campaign, your bravery."
Oh, that was
and,
Garshaw.
yeah, right. And he
Yeah,
was
that's
like,
the
"Hey,
female
I
leader.
used to fight for them, and I didn't like it. I'm now against them. They're tyrannical, monsters. You guys are going great guns. We heard stories about you, so just thumbs up. Keep doing what you're doing."
Did,
sort of thing,
She loved that. She didn't like that the others didn't show that
yeah.
same respect.
Did you guys recognise Garshaw?
No.
The actress?
No.
Oh, Sarah Douglas. She played Ursa in the Superman.
Oh my god! Of
in the
course.
Superman films.
Yeah,
she
yeah,
was Zod's little side bitch.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, same actress.
Wow.
She's clearly gotten on in age. Though. I'll have to show you guys this. We might put it up on our socials as well. At one point, I think it might be in part 2 when the Goa'uld start attacking, and they're all sort of running around. She does this really bad granny run because she's obviously in that tight little dress, and they're in those weird little crystal caves and stuff. Just see if you guys can see this. I'll play this for you. Watch her granny run from behind. Watch. It's like she's this, grand, leader, and she's so revered, and just granny run. Reminds me of Mitch. You won't know this, but the aliens from Galaxy Quest, the way they sort of run with their arms and legs out in front of them.
Yeah, that's another reason why I didn't get why the Tok'ra declined the alliance with SG-1, because I mean, obviously they had technology that wasn't Goa'uld technology in their weapons and whatnot, and if the Tok'ra are such a small unit trying to overthrow these Goa'uld, why wouldn't they be like, yeah, cool, we want all the help we can get?
To me, I see that as much as the Tok'ra want to separate themselves from the Goa'uld, they're still just as arrogant as the Goa'uld. There's still traits of Goa'uld that they have in them, and one of them is that superiority and that arrogance that they don't need other people.
But at the same time, they're making a huge sacrifice, so they feel that they should have a bit more respect, because basically anyone who's free is because of them, or that's what they think. The other thing is, I don't know why they didn't, SG-1 just didn't go, yeah, cool, yeah, we can get your hosts. We'll go back and get them.
I feel like it took Daniel a while to realise that. Because was it Daniel that figured it out and goes, oh, wait, you guys can cure all these different diseases? Oh, no, was it Sam when she had the idea of bringing Jacob along?
Yeah.
It was one of them, basically.
Yeah,
and they
that's
basically
right.
said, well, if you can cure all our diseases, then we potentially have heaps of hosts for you.
Yeah, that's fair enough.
The one thing, I think Daniel says, the one thing we can offer them is hosts.
Yeah.
Because we do have,
7
sickness and all
billion.
that sort of stuff.
There's 7 billion of us, and that's even the thing that pissed me off with this show is even if a Goa'uld wants a new host, they're saying, give me a new host or wherever, I'll give you information. It's like, well, why don't you just get some prick off death row and go, yeah, jump in. He's going to die anyway. Or someone with cancer or...
That's what I'm just thinking. They
right?
yeah, because they sort of want to mind match with somebody that is like-minded, I guess, right?
Yeah,
Like Jacob had similar sensibilities, being a soldier and just being an outright, like a bit of a dick maybe when we first meet him, but he's a good guy and he wants to do the right things.
Yeah.
But yeah, that could be an interesting...
Because she interviewed him before he made out with her, right? Because I guess that's So they have to be a specific person in order.
But if they wanted to, they can just take over.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
But would they though? Would they? Because
they need to volunteer. That's the
Yeah.
That's the little mantra thing.
Well, if you're desperate, then come on, seriously.
Yeah, and if, I guess if you get to go to the death row thing, you probably would volunteer. You're like, shit, if it's going to get me off death row, totally
we
be
can
an
get you
alien.
off death row. There's a catch. It's a doozy, Jacob.
But even in the American military, like that they've taken Jacob from, like surely there would be a minute group. Like you'd find someone that maybe doesn't have a family, is sick, or is going into retirement or something. Like
Yeah.
there'd be a very niche sort of group that they could go through their files and go, okay, these 30 people.
Soldiers that have been damaged in combat.
Absolutely.
And are too infirm to, stay on the front lines, do whatever. So
Yeah.
they've had to be,
And that'd be a really interesting episode, like way to, I think, tell an episode in a way. Like I know it won't make any sense to Rhys, but from my memory when they first introduce Mitchell, it's very much from his perspective, and people come to him from SG1 or SGC, come to him and talk to him about things. But you're experiencing it from his point of view. And even though we've spent X amount of seasons with the guys that come to visit this new character that we're spending this entire episode with that we don't understand at this point, you're still looking at it through his eyes in a way. And like you imagine that if an episode just started, you were some random soldier, there's no mention of the SGC, no SG1, Richard Dean Anderson not even in the episode or something. But not Walter, but, like Hammond or someone seeks them out and says, oh, we've got a special program for you. And they put them through a lot of, mental tests and physical tests and, do their backstory and find out about their family. And then, third act of the episode, they take you to the secret facility. They introduce you to aliens. I still think that would be an effective way of seeing it through someone else's of art.
Which is, they do that in Stargate Universe in the pilot, I want to say.
Yeah, right.
And it's cool.
Yeah.
I think that's the main thing I liked about this episode was Jacob's reaction.
Yeah.
To
Yeah.
what you got to be kidding me. And she's telling the truth, Jacob.
Because that's the first time I've really seen someone from the outside of the project actually come in,
be told about it.
Yeah, because the characters, we were with them when they found out, and since the start of season 1, we haven't seen anyone that's just learnt about it. So it's sort of like,
apart from last week in Bane with the Doctor, but he was already like, there was no kind of shock value for him.
He had,
He didn't travel to a planet. Did he even see the Stargate? Like, did he see it opening?
But
he got
he
told
had
about it.
He had
off
clearance
screen,
already.
right? Yeah. So like Carter's like, oh, there was this guy, and then when he got there, he's like, wow, I read that whole book on it. Wow, this is incredible. But you're like, oh, but what did you think?
Yeah, that's what I'm interested in.
Yeah.
Reactions and
it's like, well, even when we took Catherine with us in Torment of Tantalus last year, it's like, well, it's her gate. She started the program, even though it was her first time going through.
And that was
that's
cool,
right,
seeing her react to traveling for the first time. Yeah, for
but
sure.
she was still aware of the Stargate and
Yeah.
the mythology behind it, and of course Ernest had been stuck on that planet, so it's very rare we get to see it from this perspective.
And that would be cool too. Like we're a season and a half into this show. Like for us, we take it for granted too as a viewer. Like it's not. I now a season and a half in, or having seen all 10 seasons of SG1, I can still go back and watch the pilot, or the movie rather, when O'Neill and Jackson first figure out the gate. They first travel through the gate, first discover aliens, come across the Goa'uld. And I'm still wowed by that. There's still a lot of magic about watching that story, even though I know what's going to happen. It's their reaction, right? So even a season and a half in, the effect's been lost on us because we've been watching a new episode every week. So to see it from somebody else's perspective, the fact that can still come across as new and we can appreciate and sympathise with their reaction. That's really well done, and I thought he did really well. Jacob, what's
Carmen Agenziano?
Agenziano, yeah, which I know you mentioned him weeks and weeks ago on the show. It was a bit of a tease and meant nothing to Rhys. So when Jacob was first reintroduced in this episode, Rhys, did you just think it was going to be another like filler storyline to carry on from Secrets a couple of weeks ago? Did you see it coming from a mile away that one group was going to help the other, being the Tokra and Jacob?
Yeah, I didn't really think about it. I thought it was I thought it was a way to sort of throw Carter into the job, basically. Like, oh, my dad's going to die, but you know what? I'm going to go here anyway because this is more important. And then, I thought...
And he's a dick.
Yeah, why would you care about him on his deathbed? Like, he's just your dad. But yeah, it was just, I didn't really think about it, to be honest. I just thought that, that's the way the storyline was going. And I thought Hammond, her dad was going to die, and Hammond would tell him just before he died that, hey, your daughter's going off planet to all these different planets, and then he'd just be proud of her and then go.
Yeah.
But yeah, I didn't see that coming. That he would be the correspondent or
the host and the ambassador or whatever they're going to make him. Yeah.
So I thought that was I was kind of glad But at the same time, I still think he's a bit of a dick, so I know that we have to see him in future episodes, I guess.
Yeah. No, that's gay. Jacob is a dick, but
Selmac's cool.
Selmac's pretty cool. Selmac's pretty cool. Yeah. I did find there was a little bit of weird timing in there as well. Very much like the start of the episode is, you see Carter just before they're about to go off world. She goes and makes a phone call to Jacob.
Yeah.
And he kind of just fobs her off.
Yeah.
He's like, oh, okay, fair enough. And then she goes through. And then later on, she's surprised when he's so bad he's at the hospital. So clearly when she rang him, she must have rang him at the house that he's got nearby, because we do hear Hammond say that he's bought a place nearby so he can be close to her and all that sort of thing. But it's like she's only off world what seems to be like a couple of hours, because they're having their little Mexican standoff with the Tok'ra. And meanwhile, Hammond gets summoned to the hospital and Jacob's ready to die. So it's like, well, that must have happened really quickly.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So I just feel like that scene should have come a little bit later on.
Yeah,
when they've been held captive for a little while longer. But I just feel like it kind of was in the wrong order a little bit.
I assumed it did, so that's interesting.
I never noticed it until I sort of rewatched it coming in for this. I was like, oh, that seems a little bit odd.
Yeah.
Yeah, some great world building in this episode. I mean, surface level, Tok'ra, like great new ally and stuff like that. And then just with characters alone, like Martouf, he's kind of...
What was Rhys's gag?
My tooth.
Oh, Jesus.
It's good.
He needs a dentist.
That is, that is up there with something my dad would say.
Like, he's a cool character, I guess. And when they develop... when they reveal, their relationship and all that sort of stuff is its own thing as well. But even just the nature of Jacob, like we're in a season and a half into this show, we've already now got a military personnel from Earth, part of an alien council,
and a general, no
being
less.
a correspondent,
He's like a two-star
a general.
He's on the same level as Hammond.
Yeah,
he's the same
so
rank as Hammond.
Like we're starting to build up, a few ranks and some credibility, I guess. And I guess, for me, I haven't really given them that much credit as much as they deserve. But now that they've established this, it's like, well, this is some cool shit. You're trying to make allies, but now you've made arguably the most, not so much powerful, when we discussed about the Nox and how smart they are or whatever, but the ones that are most actively engaged in a fight. Like,
and
we've come
probably
across...
the most prevalent in terms of they're actively...
That's their
defying
job.
the Goa'uld, whereas the Nox aren't, the Tolan aren't, none of the other potential allies we've got.
Like the Asgard seem powerful as all hell, but it's not like they're out there like engaging in war. They're just basically saying to the Goa'uld, don't screw with us, because we're watching you.
Yeah, and allies on Stemeria can't do anything, you know? So it's like, this is our first ally who's, actively...
Yeah.
Well,
pursuing a
what
goal,
is our active orders, or whatever they call it, the open orders is to... retrieve technology to defeat the Goa'uld.
Yeah.
They have the same motive. No one else has that motive.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And I guess we get to experience more of what it is to be in a symbiote relationship with a Goa'uld or Tok'ra in this instance, when you get Carter, who as soon as she saw Martouf, she's like, oh, we've got something. And she said it was so strange for her when she starts, conversing with him. She's like, I'm didn't say the words, but she's basically revealing that she suddenly feels like she's in love with this guy, but she just met him. But it makes complete sense to her that she loves him, but it also makes sense that he's a stranger to her, and like just how interesting that is, and what a relationship that, well, she doesn't have the symbiote in her inside her anymore, but that still lingers in her, genetic memory or whatever.
And up until this point, she was always calling Jolinar him, because when she was taken over by Jolinar, it was from a male host.
Yeah.
And she sort of finds out that technically Jolinar is kind of prefers female hosts.
Yeah, that's right.
And has been in a relationship with Lantash and Martouf.
It's funny too, because Daniel interrupts Carter again in another romantic scene. I feel that he's done that before a couple of times.
And I don't know if this is one or two for this episode, but this is a very Star Trek thing as well. There's a species there called the Trill, and they're the same. They're a symbiont species that are put into a host. I think we've spoken about them before, where it's like, when the host dies, that symbiont goes on to the next host, but takes all the memories of that person through as well.
Yeah.
And I guess this, Selmac isn't really like that. They kind of just look at Selmac as an individual. And when Selmac left that little old lady, it's like, well, that little old lady's memory. What did you call her, Greg or something? What?
Oh, Greg, I don't know
Greg.
why.
Little old lady. Kind of, it's almost like saying goodbye and
Dumber and Dumber.
and
I was way off. Though even though the Tok'ras are obviously the Goa'uld know where the Tokras are because they have a couple of spies in the ranks. They both had the FaceTime orbs.
yeah.
Well,
And it was
that
Palm.
was the same.
Palm FaceTime.
That was the same. That was the same symbiont. So there was just one.
Yeah, but no,
One
because
spy.
Symbiont.
Symbiont.
Symbiote.
Sorry, I'm in Star Trek brain. Sorry.
Yeah.
They put an N in there.
That's right. So
They call it a symbiont.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
the symbiote took over another body.
Yeah, so it was in the dude.
After, okay.
And then remember when we see the dude later on, and he's like, "Oh
Dying.
no, what have I done?" And he gets taken over. Well, that's just the human, and the symbiote is out of him. And then it jumps into that other chick, and obviously kills whatever symbiote was in her. We don't know what happens to
Which
that.
is strange that it's still the same symbiote controlling that woman, because she was then so careless when she's walking past carrying the evidence.
Yeah.
They're like, it's her. It's like, oh, how'd you get me? It's like, because you're holding the smoking gun in plain sight.
Yeah.
Walking away from a dead body,
You
essentially.
may
like,
as well have painted your hands red.
Yeah.
Like,
Why didn't you throw it into the
yeah.
breaking down cave?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Idiot.
I mean, I for one can't wait to see the Tok'ra Grand Council again. I mean, they were given such a big intro as to how sort of, you know.
How many of them spoke?
I think just the one who ended up being taken over by the
I remember her
the Indian
from
looking
episode
woman.
1.
Yeah. No, the joke there, Rhys, being you never hear from that Grand Council ever again.
Oh, really?
Never, never.
I forget that.
Nor like even
Why would you? They were boring.
even Garshaw, like the main woman there, never see her again.
Really?
The only person out of that entire episode of all those Tok'ra that we meet, the only ones you see again are Selmak and Martouf. That's everyone else is.
Mate, begins and ends with Martouf, man. He's
You hear about Goa'uld.
He's got that cute as smile.
Yeah,
you
he's
know?
got an overbite.
the dimples.
J.R.
and-
Bourne. He's got those like
Not a
I reckon
dentist
they've got to be caps.
Yeah.
His smile is too artificially perfect. Like his teeth are just ridiculous.
That's what's her name? Did you say Garshaw?
Garshaw, yeah, Garshaw of.
That's the other thing
something
that
or
pissed
other.
me off. She's going, "Oh, that was you that destroyed those motherships. We had operatives on those ships." It's like, well, isn't that?
What do you want us to do?
Oh, they're trying to destroy us.
Hang on, they were
and-
kamikaze spies.
Sorry, we didn't
yet
know
they
you
weren't prepared to
existed
die.
yet.
Yeah, but she did say, "Oh, they're trying to destroy our planet," and she goes, "Oh, we didn't know they were attacking you."
Yeah, well, wouldn't you think that? Oh, well, you know, those operatives gladly would have given their lives to destroy 2 motherships.
Yeah.
Wouldn't you assume
And the
that?
chief system lord.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
yeah,
makes sense. You know,
We're helping you.
and
Like
his
we're...
son.
yeah.
Yeah. Anyway.
We do have, I think, what is the last appearance of the I've been mentioning a lot is the Sagan box, the Daniel sort of splooshes all over his little gifts that he likes to give to potential allies so that they can contact again. I think this, when he gives it to sort of Garshaw right at the end, I think this might be the last Sagan box we see.
Oh, okay.
'Cause they don't seem to really pick up much traction. They don't.
They seem to just give him GDOs then.
Yeah, I
after
think
that.
so. Like, you know, because obviously he gave one to what was the lady's name from Samaria? She obviously used hers when they needed to get back in touch. She threw hers through the gate, and Daniel recognised the.
It'd be so funny if she throws the GDO through next time. And then walks through.
And I'm also fairly sure, and this is from
Gets irised.
You can't iris. That's awesome.
and just from a
Walter has that on the back of a t-shirt.
yeah.
You just got iris. Yeah, you didn't pay. You're gonna get irised. That's good.
And from a production point of view, I think this is actually the first time too that's really visible is the giant briefing room table, you know, above you know, the embarkation room. For the first time, you actually see the table's actually been cut in half. So, and I think it was Martin Wood who did it in one of the earlier episodes. He does that so that they can just pull that half of the desk away and get better like close-up shots of all the actors. So obviously, Hammond always sits in the same chair and they sit around it. So they just kind of it's all on wheels and they just sort of pull it apart, push it together, and put a jug or a bowl of fruit or something in the middle so they can hide the seam. But you can actually really see. So keep an eye out for it next time. You can actually just sort of see the seam halfway through.
But you would
halfway
assume
through
that
the
a table of that size couldn't get into that room unless it was half a table.
Yeah, but this
We're not reading into it that much, really.
Well, I'm not looking for a seam in a table because a lot of
did the
tables that
removals-
size have seams.
It's only because I know like Martin Wood and Peter DeLuise talk about some cool camera moves that they do where they actually pull the table apart, slide the camera through, and then while the camera's spinning, the table gets put back into place.
Yeah,
and then when
that's
it's
sick.
revealed. There's cool stuff. That's why it
Bit of
sort of
trivia.
You
yeah
hear
put
that
out to me.
click.
Because I think
This is the guy dressed in black holding it together.
there's an episode where they do that, where basically there's they have to have a guy in fatigues, like in the back corner, working on one of those computers doing nothing, because he had to be in the scene to move all the chairs back and all that stuff. So,
really?
and there was nowhere for him to hide. Like by the time the camera came in, so he had to just stand there and pretend he was in the scene. Now, Rhys, did you have this? You were watching on a streaming service, weren't you?
Yeah,
you
that's right.
Is it Stan?
It's I'm going to say the poor man's Netflix.
Ah, gotcha. Brilliant.
Unless you want to sponsor the show, and by all means,
Then we'll edit that out. for
Great
sure.
people.
Yeah,
Great people.
great Australian quota
I
as
was
well.
gonna
Just
say-
like local content
Yeah,
and
Is
stuff.
it an
so-
Australian only?
I say poor man's Netflix because it's way cheaper and just as good quality though.
and even more.
You should get
things
it
to
if you're
watch.
listening.
Like there's even more shows to watch on it than Netflix. But is it an Australian company? Is that what it is? Like Netflix has obviously started in America and Canada.
Yeah,
Is
so-
Stan
Who
actually-
who cares about Netflix? Whatever.
Yeah. So yeah,
They don't have Stargate, so they can get.
so when Netflix was out in
You got
America,
awareness.
Netflix was just about to come over to Australia. I think they had like 3 months, and then all these streaming services started popping up,
Gotcha.
and Stan was like the main.
And
The
Australian
one that held on the
and
longest.
they nabbed Stargate.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
right.
but-
Yeah,
So
What do
you're
you think they won, mate?
Yeah.
yeah.
You're probably lucky because what you didn't get and what we would have got watching the DVDs is there's a previously on at the start of Tokra Part 1, and it is at least a minute. I timed it. It's a solid minute of just rehashing all the Joel and R stuff
Oh, yes.
and the Jacob stuff. So it pretty much gives away in the previously on that Jacob is going to be the new host. Like it
Almost every piece of dialogue of that Carter and Sam and Jacob scene, I want to
Yeah.
say, it's like, huh, Dad, hi, Dad. Do you want a job? No, I don't want a job. Suddenly they're up in the room. I've got
Yeah.
cancer. Oh, my God. Don't walk away. Dad. Cry to the
Yeah.
room. Like, it's like, we saw it 2 weeks ago. What are you doing?
Yeah.
I'm watching it on DVD. I watched it an hour and a half ago.
I was to have some fun. You guys know me. I've done it in a few episodes in the past where I've done like a supercut of every time they say Sharae or
Yeah.
I mean I was going to do one for this every time they said Jolinar, but after watching that previously on, I couldn't cop it. I was like, nah, I'm not. I can't. That's I can't beat that.
I've been unedited.
But yeah, it's a shocker because it really just gives everything away. So I'm kind of glad that we haven't loaned you our DVDs to watch, and you're watching it through Stan.
No, I think
'cause I'm
it
hoping
did. Stan had that. I'm pretty sure.
Oh, did it?
Yeah,
I
'cause
hate
remember-
that on shows where you watch it like that, like long ones, and then they go back 5 seasons previously on. Remember this guy?
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, I guess he's in this episode.
He's gonna have something to do with this, so
Yeah.
you've got to remember. Yeah,
It's
And then
like,
it pops
come
up,
on.
Give
and the
away.
music, the score match, like, done,
Yeah.
this guy,
Yeah.
you should be
This guy.
surprised. Except that we ruined it in the previously on. But you're right, this episode pissed me off more than most other previously ons I've ever watched because
Oh,
it was just
ridiculous.
It was so like, here's every bit of information that you could have possibly gotten from these key characters and storylines.
But yeah, that's true. But I guess again, when it was on TV running once a week, if you've missed an episode
Yeah.
or two, then you have to know what's happened previously to understand that
and then
episode.
you've got
Otherwise, you're going to
those-
switch it over.
Those breaks over Christmas and that sort of thing where the show's not on for 3 or 4 weeks. So it's like potentially you might have only seen Secrets once and it was 2 months ago.
Yeah.
So it is
Yeah.
kind of a reminder that, you know, who Jacob is and what he's about. But it just sucks that when they put it on DVDs and that sort of stuff,
Yeah.
it kind of gives
Yeah,
it away.
that's right.
Did you have any grabs?
Yeah, we
Oh,
got
yeah, I've got some audio if you want to punch through it.
Yeah.
We've got our another Wizard of Oz reference from Jack.
I love these.
Where's that yellow brick road when you need it, eh, Dorothy?
Kind of
year, Jack.
sandwiched in. Like,
Yeah,
I feel like
yeah.
you could have just gone, you know.
Crowbar those in.
You've got the I think the probably almost the most hated character by all 4 of us is poor man Sarah Silverman. She's taken over from Walter.
Chevron 6, lock.
Just getting her terminologies wrong.
Idiot.
idiot.
You don't lock Chevron 6.
Yeah.
You only lock.
I just
Yeah,
picture
you're not going to fucking Canada, mate.
It's engaged. What do we? Because you locked Chevron 6.
right now, I can just picture like Walter's trying to get back into the base. They've upped security because of all the breaches they've had, and he's like, "Oh, please, oh, I swear, I won't miss another alarm. I won't miss another shift." And he's hearing his Chevron 6 locked. He's like, "That's not even fucking right. That's not what she's supposed to do. Let me back in."
He's just like banging on that big concrete door.
Yeah.
And I tried my damnedest. I went forward and had to watch probably 6 or 7 episodes of Stargate with the audio commentaries on from later seasons where I think they referenced this episode. So basically, you'll notice, like, when they do those shots of all the caves sort of appearing and disappearing and all that sort of stuff, the reactions from SG-1 are pretty broad. They're like, Carter's like wide-eyed, and even Teal'c's like, whoa, and I think Daniel's got like his wide-open mouth. And apparently, and this is from another commentary, and I couldn't find the audio of them saying it, but basically the actors, when they saw that CG put in, they were like, oh, that's nowhere near as interesting as spectacular.
Yeah.
So from then on, their reactions were always dialed way down.
Yeah, right.
And I thought it was in reference to episode, Brendan, you'll know this, Prometheus.
Yeah.
Something happens there, and sort of Teal'c and Jack are supposed to react to it. And they have these really, like, underplayed sort of reactions to what the CG is going to be.
Yeah.
And they and that's because they got burnt in this episode. So anytime something really amazing happens, like obviously the director or the CG people explain to the cast, oh, this is what it's going to look like. It's going to look amazing. So here's how you gauge your reactions. And from then on, they were just like, we ain't falling for this shit.
Yeah.
We're just going to get a real basic sort of
to this guy.
reaction. So in some later seasons, there are some really amazing CG shots, and SG runs reactions and kind of just like, huh.
Yeah. Oh, wow.
Huh, wow,
That's great.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, we've seen a lot in the last few years.
Yeah.
Well, it's that time again, Rhys.
Oh!
It's time to find out if Rhys has been paying attention.
Look at Mitch working behind the keys for a change. This is impressive. He didn't just check out this time.
So I know how you love this, so I've created the name edition.
Oh, wow.
Oh, you're an idiot.
It was more so just a coincidence, really.
Sure.
You have 5 questions. 30 seconds on the clock.
Yeah, all right.
The name game.
They're all gimmies.
They're pretty much gimmies. You should know them.
Yeah.
If you watched the episode and paid attention, then...
Yeah. Then you should be right.
What was Carter's dad's name?
The time starts at the end of the first question. What is Sam Carter's dad's name?
Are you serious?
Pass. What is his Tok'ra symbiote's name?
Selmac.
Correct. What is the name of Joel and R's lover?
Oh, my tooth.
Correct. What is the main female Tok'ra's name? The head bitch.
Gosh, sure.
Very good.
Nice.
What is the name of the actor that plays Teal'c?
Christopher Judge.
Back to number 1. What is Sam Carter's dad's name? Come on for 5.
Last name's
You can
Carter.
do
Carter.
What was it?
Jacob.
Dumb name.
I would have accepted Jake.
Dumb name for dumb character.
General Carter.
General Carter, I would have accepted
General.
that. Shit. I totally would.
Rhys, your father made you wrong!
You stupid son of a bitch.
I hate this game.
Feel free to send in some questions.
Yeah,
Maybe-
please do.
Oh, what? Mine aren't good enough?
No, they're good.
No, they are not. Turns out Rhys has not been paying attention.
Oh, no, mate, come on. I kind of feel like you weren't all in that.
Yeah,
you
I
know.
kind of feel that we have to do a recording of that and play it.
Write my own questions from now on.
Go on.
Still get them
Oh,
wrong.
that could be interesting. Maybe next week we change
I'll
up.
still get him wrong. Yeah,
No.
Imagine, though.
No, what if...
Oh, I didn't write down the answers though.
No. What if Rhys wrote some questions to see if Brendan has been paying attention?
Wow.
I mean, Brendan is, pretty knowledgeable, so I feel like maybe in the next episode...
Well, all right. How about this then? You're going to throw me under the bus. How about we do... One of us goes to the booth, soundproof booth.
yeah.
Reese asks us, and we find out who wins out of us two then.
Ooh,
That's not bad.
That could be interesting.
Sounds
I
like
mean,
you've ripped that off something.
I was going to say, that sounds like a very similar format to something that we...
Oh, yeah. It's never been done in radio before,
I mean,
mate.
there's nothing wrong with recycling. It's fine.
Different audience.
All right, that is episode 34 of Get Into Geek, talking Tok'ra Part 1 and Part 2. A bit of a longer chat today, but we had to cover 2 episodes and pretty important overall. I know we had a few problems with it in there, and
It's a good introduction.
it is, yeah. And there's a lot of threads that it will spin out into other things as the seasons go on.
The
so,
Jacob storyline's the best part of this
I
episode.
Jacob, that's his name.
No, you're right. I think, it really lays a good platform
Yeah.
for Jacob because all of a sudden, at the end of that last 5 minutes when he's going back and forth between Selmak and Jacob, I'm like, shit, you're all of a sudden so much more interesting right now.
Yeah, he does become one of my favourite recurring characters.
Yeah.
I really enjoy
And it's like, shit, we got a foothold in the Tokra now.
Yeah.
That's the cool bit.
Yeah.
Ooh,
I think that's what...
Don't say foothold. Ooh.
Strangely, what makes it more interesting is the fact that there's no... At the moment, there's no bickering between the two. There's they're a symbiotic relationship. Like they're in and out of each other's, persona and shit like that. It's just really cool. So I immediately want to see him in like 5 or 6 episodes time when he's experienced Tok'ra life, even though now he's got all that memory. But see it from his point of view and him come back and sort of tell stories and shit. So
Having lived with them for a while.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Like gorillas in the mist.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know why I said yes and then I thought about whether I got the reference or not, but yeah.
Gorillas in the mist.
We will be back next week to talk spirits. Oh, we're all excited about that.
Yeah, but it's on an upward swing though. I'm looking for
Yeah.
the coming weeks. Like after spirits, we've got Touchstone, A Matter of Time, The Fifth Race.
No shit.
Matter of Time, 5th race, 2 best episodes of the
Baloosh.
season.
Rhys, just sit back and wait, mate.
Strap in, buddy.
It's all happening.
Up to Serpent's Song, written by the great and powerful Catherine Powers. So it's
Serpent's
like we're headed up there.
Yeah, Serpent Song's good.
Serpent's Song, really, really good.
Enjoy the journey and enjoy it with us. We are Get Into Gate. You can contact us on the socials, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, just simply at Get Into Gate. If you want to drop us a line in a more extended format, getintogate@gmail.com. If you want to get onto us individually, my name is at Mitch_Lewis on Twitter and Instagram. Maddie?
Hi Pitchman on Instagram. Don't forget to send through some questions to Stump Rhys on as well.
To see if I've been paying attention.
Or even to help you out, stump the other two.
Yeah, please.
If it's going to come from long-term
That could
fans.
get boring.
Yeah. You know what? And we don't need someone feeding to you a season 6 question.
Yeah, that's it.
Actually, in particular, season 6, because that actually can get dangerous. Brendan.
Oh yeah.
I'm Brendan Gibson on Twitter and Instagram.
And Rhys.
I'm at the Flying Gibson.
Nice work, boys. Yeah,
Thanks.
Good stuff. We are, of course, back next week for Stargate Sundays. In the meantime, you can catch us over on Get Into Geek. We're talking movies and TV over there, not just Stargate, and, of course, the big one that is out currently, Spider-Man Homecoming, for anyone like us who likes Stargate but also likes superheroes and the MCU having a pretty good year so far. Spider-Man Homecoming, of course, Sony, but whatever. Semantics aside, Spider-Man, Iron Man teaming up. So if you want to check out our review for that, head over to the Get Into Geek channel on both Soundcloud and iTunes as well. Join us back next week for more Get Into Gate. We're talking spirits. Bring spirits. Buy some shots. Shots on Stargate Sundays.
Shots. Everybody!
GetIntoGeek.com